All right. Yep, folks are jumping on now.
Good, and we'll be able to use the chat if we want to field questions or have sidebars, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So folks are just jumping on. It's just before 1. We're probably going to hang out here just for a couple of minutes while people are jumping on the webinar. So glad everyone could join us today. If you have any questions for us, go ahead and use the Q&A feature for questions. It's just a lot easier to field specific questions through that. But feel free to use the chat if you want to chime in while we're waiting here to just let us know where you're joining us from.
Yeah, I would say where you're joining from, any kind of topics you're especially interested in hearing about, anything that gives us better context as we go through this. We're prepared to go through lots of examples, but the more we know about what you guys are looking for, the better.
Yep. And then I'll repeat this a few times as people are jumping on, but if you do have a need for closed captioning, we do have live captions going by a real person. So it's not by the AI, because I found that sometimes that can be really interesting when it gives you. So if you click on in your menu, if you click on more, and then there's an option for captions, and then that's where you can view captions. So you can have those going at the same time as the webinar. All right, I can see a number of people still jumping on, so we'll just give it about another minute or so. Everyone who's joining us, feel free to jump in with where you're joining us from. We've got a huge cross section so far. Very excited about this. Everywhere from, let's see, Maryland and Minneapolis, Louisiana, Florida, Boston, Virginia, Ohio, Illinois, and Chicago, just down the road from where I am in Madison, Wisconsin, Virginia, St. Louis, California, DC, of course. The capital of associations, isn't it? North Carolina, Missouri, UK. Wonderful. Thanks for joining. Milwaukee, my hometown. West Virginia. Wonderful. Great, great. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with just some housekeeping, but so glad you could join us today for our discussion of looking to engage Gen Z. I know this is a topic that many of us are interested in because of the fact that it has been so challenging to really reach these groups, especially for a lot of associations, and how do we get them engaged into our organization and really start to participate in our programs. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, I have to let you all know that this is being recorded, and we will have this also available on demand if you want to share with colleagues or revisit anything that we've said. It will be available on our website at some point tomorrow. If you go to omnipress.com under resources and under webinars. So now let's start with introductions. I am your host, Tracy Grzybowski, Director of Marketing here at Omnipress. I have been working with associations for over 10 years, not just in a professional capacity, but was also president of my local chapter of the American Marketing Association once upon a time, which was really fun because we were a bunch of marketers trying to learn how to run an association. And there's a lot of information that I've gained working here from Omnipress that I really wish I knew then and could apply, because it would have made things a lot easier. And just a little bit about Omnipress. We work with national associations to help them collect, produce, and deliver their print and digital educational content for conferences, for training programs, and also for member publications. And now I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Rusty Williams.
Well, hello, everyone. And Tracy, thanks for having me here. I am, as it says, co-founder of AnswerStage. Been doing social media, online communities, internet services for more than 20 years. And that goes back to a variety of different companies, Delphi Internet, Prospero Technologies, where we helped in a lot of cases form text-based communities where people could post on bulletin boards and interact with each other. And that kind of led into us thinking, now that we're in a more video-centric world, how can we harness some of the same dynamics and same kind of user-generated cost efficiencies for video. So that's what we'll be talking about in this webinar.
Okay. And do you want to speak a little bit about AnswerStage?
Sure. Yeah. So AnswerStage is a platform we developed, as I said, in response to this idea that there is a real extreme power and cost efficiency in leveraging the content that your members and users can create. So we've developed this platform where you can send out a link. Anybody anywhere can click the link, record a response on their phone or their computer or their tablet. Those responses are automatically transferred to you, and then you can produce them with your branding, animations, other things to make them look really good. And that the way that most of our clients are using that are to collect testimonials, to promote upcoming events, and to just showcase people within their organization as thought leaders or people who are commenting on trends. So a lot of our clients, in fact, most of our clients right now are associations, because they benefit from all those things: the testimonial, the event promotion, and thought leadership. So we'll be showing some examples during this and talking about the broader topic of video as a marketing tool.
Great. Thank you for that. Before we jump into this slide that I just went to, again, just a reminder for those of you who have just joined us, throughout any point at the presentation, if you have questions, type those into the Q&A. Don't necessarily use chat for that, just because it's harder to get through the questions. Q&A is a much easier way for us to manage your questions. So feel free to type in your questions at any point. And if you do need closed captioning, we do have live closed captioning going right now. So if you click on your menu and click on more, there's an option for captioning where you can view the captions as they're going. So let's start quickly by just level setting, who is Gen Z? Who is this generation that we're talking about? So we're all talking about the same group of people. Gen Z specifically goes up to the year 2012. So they come right after the millennials. Right now, they're about age 12 to 26. So a number of them have already entered the workforce. They've graduated college. And what's really important about this is that they're going to be 30% of the workforce just in a few years here by 2030. That's really not that far off, considering we're staring down 2024. And it's funny because when Rusty and I were talking about this presentation, he brought up a really great point that, yes, the focus is really on Gen Z, but he's like, really, we're probably talking about anybody who is 30 and under. So not necessarily just up to 26.
Yeah, I think that's right, that the Gen Z label is the easiest thing to talk about, but it's really, I think the people who are 30, around there and under probably have similar traits. Right.
And there's a number of key characteristics about this generation that are really important to talk about, and that's a separate presentation in and of itself, and one we've also given before. But there's two in particular that I want to point out that are really relevant to today's conversation. Number one is that they are very, very cause and mission driven. And as you can see on this slide, 70% state that they are involved in a social or political cause. Now, what involved means can be a lot of things. It can be simply that they pay attention to and follow certain causes and support them on social media, or it can be that they're actually truly actively, physically involved in these organizations. And 93% have said a company's impact on society absolutely affects their employment choices. So this is definitely something that's becoming more important as these folks get into the workforce. They are also very, very interested in professional growth. They want to grow in their careers, not only because they want to be able to continue to take on increased responsibility and they really want a voice in what they're doing, but quite frankly, they also want to be able to make more money too, as life is not that affordable these days. And particularly for this group who is trying to pay off student loans and possibly buy a house or have rents that are just insane. car prices insane, interest rates are higher than they were just a few years ago. So they want to grow in their careers and they want to make more money. So these two things, in theory, would make them a very, very perfect match for associations. You are mission-driven organizations, and part of how you fulfill upon that mission is through professional development and education and training and upskilling. So it just seems like a very, very perfect match. But what we found is that there is a huge disconnect between these younger professionals and associations and what they have to offer. And this stat just confounded me. And I think it did to you too, Rusty, that 71,
jaw-dropping.
Yeah, 71% of association members are aged 40 plus. So clearly there's some room here for us to do a better job of really connecting with these folks. Now, why is it so hard to connect with them? The first reason is that there's a lot more competition out there. Associations once upon a time used to be the default. You know, even for me, I'm a marketer. I joined the American Marketing Association. Sadly, I'm going to tell you, even as someone who is very involved in my local chapter, one of the first places I go for marketing related content and education and little mini certifications are places like HubSpot, not necessarily AMA, just because of the quality of their content. This is a great quote that was in an issue of Associations Now just earlier this year. This group, Highland Solutions, did a study for them, did a survey, and their pull quote from this article was that we often find they, meaning Gen Z, source information, training, mentoring, and peer connections through channels outside associations. We're going to show you what that means next.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, that the I think one thing that's kind of overarching theme here is that Gen Z is self-initiated. You know, a lot of what they do is they'll seek out things on their own. They'll seek out things, you know, that they consume at their own time, that they can consume sort of outside of normal sort of definition of where you would turn for a resource. So that kind of self-initiated habit is something I think we'll be digging into deeper here.
Oh, that's, yeah, 100%, 100%. I remember when I was telling a story about kind of Gen Z, you know, in a previous webinar I did, I mean, I use my kids a lot because I'm the mom of 2 Gen Zs, and I did a lot of this research initially just to be like, am I crazy? Are they different than, no, they're not. I mean, if they need to learn how to do something, they turn to YouTube, and this slide says it all. I mean, my daughter needed to reteach herself how to tap dance for an audition, and she turned to YouTube. You know, my son needed to fix one of his electronic devices. He turned to YouTube. So they're turning to new sources of information and education, YouTube being one of them. That's just one of them, but I think this is really telling. 68% said they turned to YouTube to help them improve or gain skills, and 80% use YouTube to become more knowledgeable about a subject. Now think about that. As an association, what's one of the #1 values you provide? Improving and gaining skills and becoming more knowledgeable about their profession, about their industry. So you're competing with YouTube right now, for sure. A little bit about YouTube. They are the second most popular search engine behind Google. So they're not just a video platform, they are a search engine. So when you use Google, you're using it because it's like, oh, I need to find something, I need an answer to something. And they're doing that on YouTube. YouTube content reaches more adults 18 to 34 than any cable network out there. And it is a leader in long form videos like how-tos, demos, webinars, vloggers. It just the amount of content on YouTube is astronomical. Rusty, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
No, I think we're coming up on it, but again, the overarching theme here is not just that they're turning to YouTube as a search engine. They're turning to YouTube, and for, you know, how-tos, they're turning to YouTube because the information is in video format. And so that's part of what we're going over here is they like to consume, and they find it better to learn about how to fix something from a video, learn about so they're learning in video format much more than that I think older people might do. I think this applies across a lot of age groups, but this age group is embracing that format really, in a big way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great point. And then there's TikTok and Instagram. Again, video-based platforms. 40% of Gen Z turns to TikTok or Instagram before Google for answers, and 50% turn to either one of these two platforms instead of Google. And I remember I've been, distributing content once upon a time that was really about stressing the importance for associations to make sure that their content is found by Google. It's not just a matter of having it on Google anymore now. That's why some of these platforms have become so important. And then to Rusty's point, if you notice, these are all video-based platforms. The three biggest. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the stats at the bottom there came from the Search Engine Land article, and it just confirms what I said earlier about the video format being the preferred format for a lot of this information. The second one, more relatable answers and personalized answers. I'm thinking, in some of my career, I've been with editorial companies where they care a lot about sort of the editorial integrity of what they're putting out there. And I think some people would look at more relatable answers as potentially, less reliable answers. The truth is, I think younger people especially are able to discern what they trust and what they don't trust based on the source. And so that relatability kind of comes from the people that they see themselves affiliated with or connected to.
Mm-hmm. And we're actually going to talk a little bit in this discussion about what relatability actually means,
right?
Because it's kind of a broad term. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. So think about, the things we just talked about. So where is Gen Z today? And this is a stat from May of 2022. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, very much at the top. And then there's just a huge, huge drop off. So take a look at this graphic and then think about, where is your association right now? Which social media platforms are you using most? What we find is that a lot are using Facebook, Twitter/X. Obviously, this is before Twitter became X, LinkedIn. Now, that's not to say you should abandon these platforms, because they very, very much have value. And again, you have a lot of membership that is aged 40 plus that tend to be on some of these other platforms more. It just means that it's time to start spending a little more time on these top three. The third thing to really understand about Gen Z and associations is that in a lot of cases, what we're seeing is that associations aren't always connecting with them in what I would consider a human way. And what I mean by that is I end up on a lot of association websites and I can see their mission statements. And again, keep in mind, this is a group that is very mission focused. Here is a real mission statement that I pulled off a website. I've obviously taken out the industry and the organization because I didn't want to call anybody out specifically. But this is an association that has a really, really compelling mission in terms of what their industry is doing for the world, and how by being part of that industry and continuing to grow in that industry, you have a real impact in what's happening. But the mission is the primary multidisciplinary association for information exchange, professional development, and education and related issues. Our mission is to advance multidisciplinary education, management, and research. As a young professional, I look at this and be like, okay, well, what does that really mean? And what's in it for me? This mission statement is written more for a board than it is for any member, I would argue, but particularly this younger generation.
And I was saying to Tracy, maybe think about a marketing person. So pointing out that a a product pitch, you can say, well, this is my product. It has these features and these capabilities. That's why you should buy it. That's a product pitch. A very different approach is kind of the Apple approach, where you say, this is what we care about. We care about making people more creative. We care about making them releasing, your inner efficiencies and your inner creativities, and breaking the mold to where you get sort of not just a mission in terms of what the company does, but what feeling you should get from being part of it, and why you really would care about where that can take you, and how you can help make it get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so many of you have such compelling stories to tell, but it's a matter of telling them in the right way, which is what we're going to get to in just a little bit here. So, as we just said, there's two real opportunities for associations. It's how and where to create and distribute more story-based marketing to really connect with people on a greater, more human level, so that it is more relatable and so that it is more believable. So this is where Rusty's gonna kind of take over from here. Before he does, just a reminder to folks, as we go along, if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A on the Zoom webinar toolbar. So Rusty, go for it.
Okay. Well, I've already been chiming in, and you're welcome to chime in as we go through these slides too. Sort of, we'll keep it up. We've transitioned here to talking about personal stories and story-based marketing. We're going to focus on personal stories. There are obviously other ways you can convey a story about your organization, but really it comes down to, as Tracy said, to what can you do to highlight the human connections and the human impact that your association has. So I think describing it as personal stories really is the right thing to do, and those stories can help people relate in a couple ways. The first is, as Tracy already pointed out, they're very focused on how can they help advance their careers, their skill set, and that's more simply said is how can you help me learn and earn. So what is it kind of in it for me, as far as me spending my time to get me further down the path that I want to travel. But along with that, it's not just sort of purely tactical. It's like, well, I want to care, as I just said, about the mission, where this career and this association can take me. And so what kind of people are part of this? And I always love to point out that the term association, the name association means the people you are associated with. What are you associated with? That's a really important thing. And so that you need to feel good about that, and you need to feel that there are other people like me, that are other people who have that care about the same things as me, and that there are things that I can learn and there are examples I can follow that will help me move along my career. And I'm saying me as a Gen Z, which I don't physically represent well, but that's the point here is to how can we put ourselves in their shoes. And so those connections and those stories that they can relate to are really important. And we'll go to the next one.
Right. Okay.
So we're just before you play this, the whole context for this webinar and this conversation is how can we leverage these video-centric services to help connect with Gen Z? And so we're going to transition here to a lot of examples where the context and the illustration is showing real people talking about real impact on their careers from being part of an association or being part of conferences, gathering, benefiting from resources, literally in their voices and their personality coming through. So we can go ahead and roll this. This is an example for ASIS, somebody talking about the benefit to them.
After a 10-year career in law enforcement, I made the decision that I wanted to jump over to the corporate security sector. Now, I wanted to do this, but I know it wasn't easy. So I reached out to tons of professionals and I asked them what gives me a leg up. and they told me, if you go to ASIS, you take the Certified Protection Professional certification or any of their certifications, and you'll be able to sit across from executives and security departments across the country and tell them exactly what your skill set is, how it applies to their business, and what value you add.
So there's a very, I think a very specific example of a person who's been through a career transition. Everybody else who's looking at the similar kind of transition would say, okay, I get it now. This can help me with that, that process. And this is in his words. This is in his, where he's located. This is not high-end video production where you've got people, a film crew coming in and taking an interview of him. It's really just a quick, 36 seconds of him talking about how this helped him transition his career. So this is what we spend the most time thinking about, is this shorter form kind of presentation or conveying of these personal stories. There are other examples of longer form content and longer stories, but I think the world, and we can talk about this, but the world of TikTok and Instagram and others, you've got 30 seconds to a minute really to convey most of the time to convey your story. So these are, most of these examples are fairly short form, and again, feature real people who've benefited from the services provided by the association. Yeah, and it just gives the message so much more clout to have it coming from a real person that people can relate to and identify than the association telling us this, right? And also, it factors into a bunch of other things, that if they have, an online forum, or they have an online directory, or they have a yearly conference, people will know Scott. Scott will know other people, and those actual connections in the real world can be reinforced by this type of content. True. Okay. Oh, there we go. And this is, again, we're focusing on shorter form, but just, the people behind the products, the companies, et cetera. In this case, this is really just showing a previewing an exhibitor at a conference. And so it's a different, much different context, but is this exact same dynamic. Who's this person, and why might I want to visit with them when I go to this conference? Okay. Do you want me to play this, or do you want me to jump ahead? Let's see if he says anything interesting here.
What am I looking forward to about this year's GSX? It's going to be in Dallas. Dallas is a fantastic city. Also looking forward to seeing existing clients and prospective customers. Lots and lots of them always at these shows. And then looking forward to... Okay.
So, we're, in this case, this is really just more about personal networking and getting people to, know about their company, get them to meet them. And again, when they're there in person, there's a little bit more context and a little more chance that they would say, "Hey, Neil, I eager to talk to you about X, Y, or Z." Sure. So that's the point here, is how do we get people to see and know each other even prior to them being together in person. And this one, it follows a similar kind of model. This one's more of a retail kind of thing, but I think this one's very quick, but it's literally about a product and just saying, come take a look at these things that we have available for you to purchase at the show.
Hi everybody, Lori Anderson here, Golden Mutt Jack, Oklahoma City. This is Gertie, one of our shop dogs, and I just wanted to say how excited I am to be in San Francisco next week. I am looking forward to meeting new people, building new relationships, and having an amazing time.
So I'd say the value of this too, it's a great opportunity to provide, a value to your exhibitors. But also, again, for people to have some familiar faces when they go there.
Right. So it's really a double value. As you just said, if I would assume many of the people who are part of this webinar host events, host conferences, and sometimes you have sponsors and you have exhibitors. This A, gives extra value to the exhibitor and the sponsor, but B, and perhaps more importantly, gets more visibility and more promotion for the conference or event overall. So it does both those things, and it does it in a way that, you know, isn't an overt ad. It's really learning about this woman and her dog and the products she'll be selling at this conference.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, before we jump into this, we do have a question that came in that I feel we could probably jump in and answer right away. Because I know especially some people have to sort of jump off once we get to the end. But would you say then, as the shift moves towards this video content, that the preference for Gen Z is to seem more authentic in the video versus seeming professional? This ASIS video, for example, was filmed on a phone versus having studio style recording. Is this the new norm? And how do we convince our association board of directors to move toward this style?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think it is the new norm. And I do think that it is the way that TikTok, and we'll show you the examples, that, you know, everything is becoming a little, a popular term now is lo-fi, you know, in music and everywhere else. Like, I don't think people are looking for the polish that many of us have thought is required. They're okay with somebody, you know, recording on their phone. And I mean, part of that is that the phones have gotten to be pretty darn good, and computers have gotten to be pretty darn good. And, you know, just another factor has been sort of the pandemic has made it to where all of us have gotten more accustomed to this kind of interaction, where we are just on a webcam or we're just on a phone. It doesn't really matter that it's super glossy, or we have a you know, a production crew come in and do jump cuts and edits and other things. So I would say yes, it's the new norm, but the caveat there is I would never recommend just ditching professional video production. The people who do professional video production typically come in with a very clear how they want to script it, how they want to convey it, how they want to you know, kind of make that all look. And not to contradict what I just said, but I still think there's a place for that. If you're doing your end of year summary with your CEO or your board of directors, or I would never say, you know, ditch all that and use a phone. I would say there's still a place for that kind of polished, you know, kind of pre-planned type of video production. But to get to the masses and the volume that you can get to with self-produced and self-recorded video, you need all you need is a phone or a computer, and you can collect that kind of content in dozens or hundreds of different perspectives. And that's a way that you can actually make all this scale in a much better way, and people are more receptive to that.
I'm going to yes and that too. I mean, I think it definitely depends on the objective or what type of video you're trying to make. But I think there is an opportunity to do more of those slightly more on the fly, in the moment, a little more honest type of videos using your phone. Again, like an overall capabilities type of video. There's a lot of opportunity for more produced video, but these types of videos don't have to have that. In fact, a lot of these apps, you can potentially do things on a desktop version, but you can do more if you actually create it and do it in the app on your phone. You've got more functionality, you've got more options if you're actually doing it on your phone. YouTube is a great example. YouTube Shorts. I can create YouTube Shorts on my desktop, but there's more that I can do with them, more filters, more effects, more things like that if I'm actually creating it and editing it on my phone. As to your next question, how do we convince our association's board to move towards this style? I know that can be really challenging. Boards can be tough, and it depends on who's on your board. I think a lot of it is, you know, plan to start small and test. You don't have to completely, you know, start with a certain type of video or a certain style. I mean, a great selling point is the fact that it's a lot cheaper. And it allows you to produce more things more efficiently that you can then redistribute across a lot of different channels. So you're really maximizing your resources. And it is very cost efficient, especially to just test.
Yeah.
start small, start with a test. I think people are very comfortable as long as you are minimizing the risk when you start with something like this.
Yeah, and I would add to that one thing to keep in mind is this is not like just opening up a spigot and letting people go out and post randomly. What you would get as responses or people, when you send a link to someone and say, can you please answer this? You get that response, you get to review it, and you get to choose whether or not that's something you want to feature. You still have editorial control with this type of approach. So it is not sort of just opening up the Wild West and making it so anybody can say anything anywhere. And so that editorial control is important. And Kim, asked a follow-on question here that I think is really important too, is, well, that all sounds great, but we sent a link to somebody and they're like, not for me. I don't want to go on camera. There's definitely an issue of video hesitancy. And all I can say is that is less so for people that the topic of this webinar, that the younger folks are much more comfortable with FaceTiming, video conferencing, Zooming, and using their phone and computer as a recording device. With that said, there are a bunch of things that we've adopted that I think can help that. You can choose to respond just with audio. So if you're not in a well-lighted place or you're not comfortable with the way you come across on camera, you can submit a audio response. You also have the chance of reviewing what you record prior to clicking submit. So it's not just, immediately sent off into the ether and you lose control of it. You as a respondent can actually take a look and make sure you're comfortable with it. So those things, I think that along with some coaching tips, like, just be yourself. I think ums and ahs are not to be upset, shouldn't make you upset that you have an or ah in what you respond. That's who you are. That's how you talk. And that's how you're going to talk when you get together in person. So I think kind of having a little bit of some of those coaching tips and just sort of making it so that people understand they'll get a chance to review and choose whatever format they want to respond in will help that.
Right. Before we move on, I just want to add one more thing to the whole board, getting on board, because I know, again, that can be a really, really huge obstacle. I think a couple things that would help that tremendously and give them some comfort level is, especially when you're starting small and you're testing, only have a few very specific individuals who maybe are doing this in the organization, right? Limit it to maybe like one or two that are working as part of a team, but only give these permissions to a couple people to do it to start. And then, have some type of, you don't want to bog down the process with too much bureaucracy, but you do need to have some very specific guidelines in place for what is considered appropriate, what is not, what kind of tone are you going to use. If you can have a lot of these types of things worked out ahead of time, that helps provide some comfort too, because it means that someone can't just go off and go rogue. You want to be able to be responsive and in the moment, but I can understand that at least to start, until people get comfortable with this, maybe having a little bit of a review process so that there's one person who can review it, hopefully without it having to go through full legal approval, which I know has to happen in a lot of organizations, to at least vet it before it goes out. If you can have some of those kind of control checkpoints to start as everyone's getting comfortable with this, that might be a good way to kind of get them on board in a smaller scale.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about TikTok.
Yeah. So I think, kind of a caveat as we move into TikTok. TikTok is somewhat of a controversial service. There's worry on our government level about its Chinese ownership. There's worry about ownership of content. There's a bunch of things that are valid concerns. But TikTok is literally changing the landscape that we are seeing in the world of video and social media. It has grown sort of dramatically, and as Tracy showed earlier, was it the second behind YouTube in total volume? And I think that might be set to change pretty soon as far as the total activity. We have several slides here that talk about TikTok, and I'll say right up front, I'm not saying jump into TikTok and become, a TikTok embracing organization. I think the context for a lot of this is understand what TikTok is doing and why people are reacting to it, and how you can start to incorporate some of those same kind of dynamics in your marketing and the way you interact with your prospects and your members. So first of all, TikTok nailed the fact that it's mobile optimized. It's vertical format. You look in your phone and you scroll through and you get, you get a really interesting stream of information. They made the whole thing very creative and sometimes crazy, where you can have a llama head if you want to as you respond to things, or you can have, a green screen dancing baby come through your video. And that, I know that sounds kind of silly and stupid to a lot of people, but it also makes it more compelling to use those kind of effects. And to me, the most important insight that TikTok has brought to this is that they don't think of video as something that you just publish and it stays there. It is something that you can react to. You can what they call duet, which means that you can actually bring up side by side your reaction to a video as it's playing. You can also do stitching, which means that the video that you're responding to starts and then you respond to it. And they have this whole ability to riff on and to build on videos. And so those dynamics, I think, are going to only become more prevalent as this trend continues to grow. And again, I'll point out right away that I don't know that means you can jump right in and start doing all that. I'm just saying this is stuff that will become part of the video landscape and the social media landscape that we'll all be part of as we go forward. And the final point is whether or not you ever embrace TikTok, what you're seeing on Instagram and YouTube is being affected by what they're doing. The new edition of Reels and Shorts are very TikTokian in their characteristics. So we're in a TikTokian phase here because they have had, they've really sopped up a lot of the market. And so I think that's why I think we're spending time talking about what it is that they're doing and how that can be used.
Yeah. And with that, then obviously too, it's kind of chicken and egg, right? So the platforms are responding, which means we're going to see more of these videos, which means that's going to become the preference of people who are consuming these videos. This is what they're used to seeing. This is what they want to see more of.
Yeah, so I've already said this, that I'm not saying, or we're not saying in this this overview that jump into TikTok. I think it's worth paying some attention to how TikTok is being used by different or associations. Here are a few that actually have TikTok accounts that are doing some interesting things. And again, first step is maybe just take a look at how they're conveying, how they're actually putting information out, and just start to look as a model. So the first example I'm going to show here is again, it's a different kind of feel. It's a person, and this person got a comment from the American Heart Association, has a comment that where the person asks, please post an example with Enchanted. So she is responding with video to this video comment. So this is just about the CPR. But you can see the comment that came in. She's responding to that with a video. She has an overlay of text. TikTok will automatically transcribe and put captions up if you want. So this is her reacting to a question that came in on TikTok. And we'll jump a little faster since our time is going quickly. We'll jump to the next one. This is, you can play this without sound. I don't even know if it has sound, but this is just kind of a goofy way of showing a meme superimposed on healthy food to illustrate. This is American Heart Association, I believe, So this is not anybody in their organization recording this. This is really them just finding two different clips and saying this helps us illustrate the point of eating healthy. And this is Tracy, you told me this is, I don't know this actress, but this is an actress that
Summer I Turned Pretty. If anyone's got a teen or preteen
So
girls, you recognize this actress.
there you go. So I haven't seen that movie, but that's the kind of thing that's happening, is they're kind of pulling things from popular culture and making them part of what they present through their accounts.
And so you'll see this if you're on TikTok or even on Instagram Reels, you'll see this same clip of her with this same expression, and it's going to have probably a different comment and then a different thing in the back. Like, people are taking this clip of her and applying it in a lot of different scenarios. Okay.
And I think this last one I just wanted to show, in this case, this Pencil of Promise had a person say, I'm going to donate to Pencil of Promise. I'm excited about this association. And the woman who's in the left-hand side of the screen, she is with Pencils of Promise, and she's just saying thank you. She's duetting it. So she's recorded a video response to going, thumbs up, very happy that you mentioned us and we appreciate it.
Yo, my charity lovers, what's going on? I got a little cool announcement that I'm going to be sharing right here on TikTok. I decided that I'm going to be doing philanthropic work all the time throughout my whole music career. You might find it in music video.
Okay, we'll go move on from there.
So this is again, I think these examples are a little hard to say, okay, go out and do this tomorrow. We're showing you, I think, these examples because this is stuff that's happening. And Pencils of Promise is doing a good job sort of reinforcing this person's enthusiasm about their cause. Mm-hmm. So this is a little bit different than what you might be accustomed to in the world of YouTube, etc. But on that point, this is an Instagram Reel example. You can go ahead and play this, and again, we'll try and move along. This is sort of the same topic.
Anything about Taylor Swift, that Speak Now Taylor's version was released last.
Okay, we don't have to listen to the audio. I'll let you talk.
Right. So she's just sort of going back to the CPR thing. I think in this case, she's connecting it back to Taylor Swift's song, and the tempo of the song being something that's appropriate for CPR. So it's, again, what you see here on Instagram is very similar to what's happening on TikTok. And finally, the same point for YouTube. YouTube Shorts is making it so you can respond to and build on different types of content. You can get soundtracks, you can get those, as Tracy said, those meme overlays, etc. So this is becoming a very kind of rich palette of content that you can leverage, but it is it's just a different kind of video production. So the person who asked a while back, are people comfortable with self-produced phone recorded videos? Absolutely. It's like all over the place on TikTok, etc. The point is, this is kind of a lot of what Gen Z is doing, and is the type of thing that's worth working towards, not jumping into.
Right.
And so a few comments have come in as we've talked. Again, I think there's concern about TikTok, and there's somebody's already jumped in. That it's not like this is like a click your fingers and you're there. I think it's something that's worth knowing. This is stuff that's evolving and happening, and affecting the more common names that of YouTube and Instagram and others.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, AI. That's a
yeah. So we thought we'd touch briefly on AI, since that's sort of all the rage. AI is a new tool that's evolving for all sorts of content creation, including video production. You can create a video now with a fully synthesized or artificial talking head. You can take your head and make it so it says things. I mean, there's just crazy things that are going on. I think that what we would say is it's still more powerful to have a person that you can meet in person, have them talk about their real stories, than it is to synthesize any kind of video. There are places for that in training or other. So, but this, I think what we're talking about for marketing, featuring real people is going to be more valuable.
Agreed. I absolutely agreed. And as we've kind of talked about with each other on LinkedIn, Rusty, the whole mouth function of AI, especially, is the one thing that still lacks. They can't quite get the movement of the mouth yet. I've noticed CGI does that as well.
Yeah, and you can play this without sound, but it shows you what Tracy just said, that this isn't an avatar, a synthesized person talking about things. You could pick what they look like, what their age is, what their gender is, etc., and add a script and have them talk about it. There may be a place for this in the overall marketing mix. I'm following this really closely because I think there's what we see today will become much better over time, but I don't think it'll ever replace a story from a real person that you know.
It won't, but I think to that end too, I think it does bode some caution eventually as these things get even better, really being able to tell kind of what really is real and what's not. The more that we can be authentic and real and have real people, but I think it's going to get even more challenging to figure out what's real. In fact, I saw a story or something where there was a brand and this model has their own Instagram account, lots and lots of followers, related to this product, and the model itself, not real. It's crazy. They have this whole following and this person's not real. So however you're using it, it really is about keeping it authentic and real, as Rusty mentioned.
And this is just a goofy image I created with AI just to show you it's not as good as a real picture. But our refrain is that AI assistance is super valuable and super worth looking into. AI created stuff I don't think is quite there, but it will evolve over time. At the very least, you should be turning to AI to sort of get ideas. What kind of questions can you ask of people? What kind of topics are trending in your related to your association? What types of what types of trends are there overall? This kind of stuff is now really just a few key clicks away through ChatGPT and other types of services to help you answer those questions. They can also help you create first drafts, but I would never say, have somebody draft an email for you and send it out to people. It'll get you 80% of the way there, but you need to put your own voice, review it, make sure it's accurate. And there's the ongoing concern that sometimes AI makes mistakes, literally makes up things entirely. So it is worth embracing because it can help you become much more efficient, but it's also worth saying, this is assisting me in what I want to accomplish versus this is going to take over the actual act of creating things and posting them.
Yeah. And I think AI obviously could be a whole topic in and of itself, as the comments we're getting right now about from David Lee about the self-paced training and using AI to help train the trainers. And I think, Rusty, you're on a panel about this tomorrow, someone's kind of in the AI topic tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's there's a lot that AI is going to do, and it's going to do better and better over time. But I still think that it's best to look at AI as something that can enhance your skill set and can enhance and make you more efficient rather than take over specific tasks. This example that David Lee's referencing, sounds like it's really kind of done a lot of the work that was done by, manually before, and there'll be more and more cases like that. So I think for all of us, our job is to sort of stay on top of this. How does it make it to where we can come up with those kind of solutions and make sure that they don't have the drawbacks that can come with AI of, again, mistakes, hallucinations, things that are not accurate, that it still happens in the world of AI.
Right. So to put it all together, we've covered a lot of topics fairly quickly, and I think we could dive into, kind of teach a master class on any one of these in terms of how to go about this or how to do it. But, we kept it pretty high level to keep you thinking about some things. So in summary, you want to wrap it up and bring it home, Rusty?
Sure. Well, I had to put in this goofy animated GIF just to stick with the goofiness here at the end. There's a lot of things that are happening in the world of video. Gen Z loves to consume content in video. I think the objective of being authentic and conveying your personality is exactly right. And I think a corollary to that is that doesn't mean jump in and start doing TikToks tomorrow because you think that's good. If it's not something you're comfortable with, kind of work towards that, or hire somebody who is good at that and can start to move the organization in that direction. All of this, I think, is still under the umbrella of story-based marketing, telling the stories, the experiences, the challenges and the personalities of people that are part of your association. And we've made this point before, but I think you can learn a lot just by looking for people who are doing things and start to emulate that, kind of let others kind of blaze a trail. And once they start doing that, you can say, okay, this is what will work for us.
Yeah. And always answering that question on behalf of your members or your prospective members of what's in it for me, right? So why should I attend this conference? Why should I sign up for your training program? Why should I become a member? What is this going to specifically do for me? And telling that in a very, straightforward, believable and authentic and honest way. Gen Z tends to be pretty protective of their time, as many of us have got, as many of us are, especially after pandemic. It's no longer like, well, this is something I should do, I'm going to go do it. It's like, no, why should I go do this? Why is this worth my time, as opposed to all of the other things that I enjoy doing? So that's something you always have to think about.
I think we can go all the way back to that very first video of the guy talking about how certification helped him change his career. It by saying what's in it for me, it doesn't mean like, just pitching them on, and pandering to them. It means showing them things that are experiences that they're going through or might go through, that where they can say, okay, I get it. This is how this association can help me. My certification can help me transition from military employment to civilian employment, or whatever the story might be.
Right. So where to start, which is the proverbial question, right? I know a lot of us have limited resources. Honestly, this is something that, we're even here at Omnipress, we've got a small team. We're just starting to jump into ourselves for some of our own marketing efforts. The biggest place to start on, and I think Rusty sort of mentioned this before when he provided some links to some, organizational TikToks, is just spend time on each platform. Just learn, observe, follow, see what they're doing, so you can kind of really get a feel for the platform. And then pick one to focus on. You obviously don't have to be on all of these. For some of them, it's actually easy enough to create something and then publish it to several different platforms. And in other cases, what you do might be just unique to that platform. But, worry about really, where is your audience? Where are you potentially going to have the greatest impact? Start small. Focus on one strategy. There's no way you can do it all. So what's one thing you could do, and be able to step and repeat and stay consistent. Consistency is really the key to building that following. Repurpose the content you already have. quite frankly, I'm going to take this webinar once it's recorded and we'll have it as a full on-demand webinar. And to promote it, I'm going to edit it into shorter clips to put on a variety of these platforms so people can see before I commit to an hour, what am I actually going to get out of this? And that's easy enough to do with there's a lot of free tools. One that we use a lot is called Veed, V-E-E-D. But there's a lot of tools out there that help you do this. And then enlist the help of your most engaged members. They already love your organization. They love your mission, and they're going to want to share that with as many people as possible. So use that to your advantage. Rusty, anything you would add there?
Well, no, I just that on that point, there's a whole world of what they call influencer marketing, which, unfortunately for most people means, stars and the Kardashians. The more appropriate term, I think, is micro influencers, people who actually have authority and connections within a specific niche. And so that really matters a lot to people in associations. That if somebody is well known within your target market, those people, getting them engaged, getting them to be featured, getting them to be part of your overall messaging is a great way to do it.
Perfect. Well said. All right. We are just about at time. We're right on time. So we answered a lot of questions already. We can hang on for just a few extra minutes. If anybody does have additional questions, David Lee, thank you so much for your message there. We will absolutely have this available, like I said, by tomorrow on our website. If there's any other questions anybody has, feel free to type it in the Q&A. We'll hang on for just a minute.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for your time. I know it's hour chunk is a lot, but I'm glad to see many people got value out of this.
All right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up for today. So I look forward to sharing this with all of you, and let's continue the conversation. And Rusty, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Tracy. I enjoyed it.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Take care.